So a reminder of what we're dealing with here in the first round. We're clockwise on the KF1 karting circuit in Singapore today, just shy of 1,000 metres, 965, a whopping 18 corners for all the drivers to deal with. And so far, with very, very few exceptions, they've dealt with them brilliantly. It's been an absorbing morning and into the afternoon now of motorsport. Brilliantly organised by the team here. Much credit to Richard Tan, and special mention as well must go to Brendan Lim as we cut to live shots in the pit lane of the MiniRockers, getting set for their pre-final. And it was a thrilling race just before lunch when Timothy Mihailov, who initially lost the lead at the start to Quara Furhan, came back and really dominated. And having started in P2 in his heat and at one point taken the lead in the race, the question is, can the younger Quara Furhan, who is a little rocker rather than a mini rocker, can he work his way up from what is now a worse grid position? I think he dropped down to 7th after that incident where he was pushed very wide by Emiliano Cyrus in the heat. While we wait for the grid positions to come up, something I must do, because it's only right when you have an event of this scale to thank all the sponsors who've been brilliant in their support of motor racing and motorsport, and in particular the karting series here. Bridgestone tyres, your journey, our passion. And there are the official tyres, not just for the RokCup in Singapore, but the RokCup worldwide and that international series. So thanks to Bridgestone for being a part of this. F1 Auto Cars, a dream driven by passion. One of the premium companies when it comes to importing continental cars. Orient Watch, thanks to them as well. A company steeped in history from its founding in Japan in 1950. Just three of the sponsors that have made this marvellous event happen. Oh, that's a shame. An issue for Dylan Tan in Kart 4. And there's also an issue, is that 35 there, Tayo Vlegin of Thailand. So Dylan and Tayo, problems in the pit lane as the rest of the field are on the formation lap with Timothy Mikhailov in P1, same as he was in the heat. And Emiliano up to P2. There's confirmation. Quara Furhan was P2 in the heats, now P7. How will he cope, the Indonesian, who showed glimpses of brilliance? And Max Holman of Germany down in 13th. And another mention to our only female driver competing today, Katrina EE, kart number 13. Keep an eye out for her. She put in a great drive to finish in P11 in the heat. So now we're into the pre-finals. It's 14 laps for the MiniRoks and the KF1 and GP50 boys. 16 for the experts, 16 for the juniors, and 18 for the seniors. There is kart 88, Max Holman. Will be starting from 13th. A couple of the drivers just sending each other hand signals. Timothy and Emiliano. Well, it's not the most straightforward of formation lap so far, and they're really tight together now, though, as they come up into the finishing straight to find their tram lines of their boxes, if you like, and get ready to start. Now, if there's a chink in Timothy's armour, maybe it is the start, because Quara Furhan really gave him something to think about in the start of the heat. And we still await word as the yellow flag is out. So yellow flag. But now they are good to go, and go they do. And Timothy has started well. Now, yellow flags. Now, I thought I did see a yellow flag. The yellow flags are still out. I think a couple of these boys are racing, but yeah, yellow flags out here. So the start's no good. I think maybe to their credit, they're just trying to keep the tyres warm. But the yellow flag was out early there. I don't think it was ever a start. My apologies if I led you believe that was the case. And indeed, they are now reforming up. Quite sure what the issue was there. I think Chris is darting back to tell me with another tram line. Chris is the expert on the tram lines. Is that what he's coming back to tell me? Was that a tram line incident, Chris? Oh no, he's not. You've not come back to help me on what happened with the start. You forgot your. What did you forget? You forgot your neck protector, chest protector. Well, thankfully Chris has got that, and I'm sure he was busy preparing for his race, which follows next. So, whatever the reason, the yellow flag is out. We haven't had this race started yet, so all eyes once more on the supreme Russian so far, Timothy, in kart 25. Can he be given something to think about by Emiliano in kart 86? And the answer is yes. I think Emiliano's taken him, and Timothy has dropped all the way down to third. Well, sensation here early on. What on earth has happened to the Russian? He's gone from first to fourth, I think. Let me just clarify my reading of that situation. As ever, it's quite difficult from our commentary position to get a reading. Have I misread that horribly? I think I have. I must apologise. I thought Timothy had dropped through the pack there. Very difficult to pick it up on our screen. Apologies to our Russian fans watching. You can calm right down. I misread that horribly. I think there was some movement. In fact, the movement was Emiliano Cyrus and Nicholas Stati dropping down a spot, but there was no such problems for Timothy Mikhailov. To apologise. Picked that up wrong here in the commentary box. Just so difficult sometimes in the sunlight to see the numbers on the car, and I think I might have got the red card of Emiliano confused with the red card of Timothy. And while Timothy has remained unscathed, several others haven't. Nicholas Stati is up to second, dropping down at Emiliano from second to fourth. Aki's dropped down as well, and Tayo Vlegin, who, remember, had to start from the pit lane. Tayo, so it's far from a clean start this, other than Timothy. And who was I to doubt that he wouldn't be quick off the mark? I thought initially he might have been swamped. It wasn't to be, as now doing the chasing is Nicholas Stati of Australia. And these two already opening up a sizable lead. And on the evidence of what we've seen so far, Timothy is going to be very, very difficult to beat from here, even if there is more laps to reel him in with in this format. Now up to 14, of course, and 12 of them left still to go. Now the question is, Emiliano Cyrus was pulling off some really daring driving to reel in Quara Farhand in the heat race. Is he going to do the same here? And speaking of Quara Farhand, he's up to fifth, so he's moved up 2 places. There's been some movement on the board. Aki and Tayo starting in the pit lane. I don't think that's the correct reflection of their grip position at the moment. I might be wrong. Timothy at the moment not putting Nicholas Stati away just yet. Instead, a long, long way to go. Half a second in it, just over. Stati to Cyrus is a full second. So the top two at this stage having it all their own way. And in terms of the Little Rockers, well, Martin Herrera is in 8th and Quara Farhand up to 4th. And it'll be interesting to see if Quara Farhand can get his revenge on Emiliano Cyrus after what happened in the heats, because that might be what his intention is. He's still got a second to make up, but he's found some excellent pace early. And Emiliano, his race went wrong a little early with that drop from second to fourth in what was, I think, in hindsight, a dramatic start that I just misread. because certainly there was plenty of movement off the grid, and there was some chopping and changing, but it was the man that started on pole that escaped the turmoil, and he's now knocking on the door of a sub 50-second lap. 50.710 in the last lap, his best so far. And now that table is levelling out as Tayo and Aki begin to drop down, having started on pit lane, we believe. Just rode a couple of curbs there as we focus on this battle for 4th and 5th, with Quara Furhand trying to fend off the renewed challenge of the Thai Aki. Meanwhile, Quara Furhand has got in his sights the Thai, who's, I think, just taking his spot back. Yes. So Quara Furhand drops back to 5th, and then had that pocket pinch once more by the Thai. Certainly loads of raw ability in the youngster Quara Furhand, but just a couple of times now in both the heat and this pre-final, he's done a lot of good work followed by a bit of bad work that's undone the good work. But he still looks like he's confident he might have a chance of hauling the Thai back in. Meanwhile, there's car 75, Nicholas Stati. He's the man that's chasing Timothy Mikhailov. But the gap now is almost 3/4 of a second. Here's Quarry trying to get back at Aki. Goes through the inside. Can he get the gap? He's pushed him very wide, the Thai, but the Thai this time managed to ride it, and that's a carbon copy of what happened to Quara in the heats. But this time it was he that was pushing his opponent wide, not vice versa. And unlike the situation with him in the heats, his opponent managed to ride out the inconvenience there. So it's a ding-dong battle for 4th and 5th. Meanwhile, up front, Timofey is extending the gap. Nicholas Stati in second. Now Emiliano Cyrus, who had the disappointment of being the main victim of what happened at the start, possibly self-inflicted anyway, he's now back up to 3rd, but instead of whopping, well, in excess of a second and a half behind Nicholas Stati, who in turn is knocking on the door of a second behind Timofey. Car 99, Aki of Thailand, trying to fend off, and at the moment succeeding to fend off Quara, who has slowed down considerably after that attempt to overtake ended in disappointment. This man isn't slowing down though. If anything, he's getting faster. 50.514, and the gap now is over a second for the first time in the race. So barring a disaster here, Russia's Timofey Mikhailov, you fancy, is going to clean up in this pre-final, and also of course secure pole position for the MiniRok Grand Final still to come. He's chasing shadows, isn't he? Nicholas Stati. Timothy Mikhailov, just too good. And you have to say now, between the front 5, there are sizable gaps between all of them. So this longer distance is separating the great drivers from the supreme drivers, I fancy. Inside the final 5 laps. And the only drama that Timofey Mikhailov has had in this race is probably if he managed to pick up a bit of my commentary on the PA, that I thought he'd been overtaken at the start when it wasn't the case. And it was in fact Emiliano Cyrus that suffered the overtake, because He's not really had a moment's worry here, and the gaps are now sizable through this course. Another fastest lap time for Timothy Mikhailov, now 50.480. And he's going even faster on sector 1 on this lap. Why, oh my. Well, on this kind of form, is anyone going to have a prayer of laying a glove on Timothy Mikhailov in the Grid Start Grand Final, which for the MiniRockers is scheduled for 3:44. Well, other than an excellent display from Timothy, I regret to say nothing too much in the terms of overtaking excitement here. Although, hang on a second, is that Quara getting on the back of Aki again? I think it is. Well, is this youngster, not a mini rocker, a little rocker, Quara Furhand, going to have an attempt at getting past Aki again? They've exchanged that 4th spot now already on 3 occasions. And you can see from that shot that Quara is determined to make it a 4th occasion and get himself back up to 4th. And he's looking cool, he's looking calm, he's looking determined here. The only problem he's got, he's starting to run out of real estate to make the change. Now, he's suffered already trying to make the change and the overtake in that notorious corner that did for him, that's coming up very shortly. And let's see what the timings are. Well, and you can see from there it's practically shrunk now to what? 0.2 of a second almost between them. Timofey is still in a class of his own. Nicola Stati appears to have no dangers for second. Emiliano Cyrus in third, and Aki and Quara, I think, are the story in this going into the last lap. So, less than a lap to go, around about a lap to go now exactly for Quara and Aki. Still Aki in position of sport spot, but is Quara going to have a go and try and dive round him on this final lap of the 2020 RokCup Singapore opening round in the MiniRok category? It's the pre-final, and it's been dominated from flag fall to seemingly about to be finished by Timofey Mikhailov of Russia. He continues to go faster and faster. Best lap time of 50.429 seconds. And he can afford to absolutely coast in now. What an impressive drive this has been. Timofey in a league and a class of his own. Nicola Stati for second. Now, Emiliano Cyrus getting third. Question, of course, which we didn't see, is did Quara Furhand manage to get back up in front of Aki? And the answer is no. So Timofey, what, provisional 1. Nicola Stati provisionally 2nd. Emiliano Cyrus provisionally 3rd. Aki provisionally 4th. Quara Furhand, the little rocker, in 5. Tayo Vlelgen in 6. Jacob Lauter in 7. Dylan Tan in 8. Stefano Padani in 9. Martin Herrera in 10. Ivan Tugolokov in 11. Katrina E, sole female competing today. Another great drive from her. She's finished 10th in front of Germany's Max Holloman and Conrad Gallo of Arena Racing. That's the finishing order for the 14 drivers here in the MiniRok and Little Rock pre-final. Stay with us. Up next, it's KF1 GP and GP50, including a chance to see the man who'll start in 7th, I think, on the grid. He's doing a wonderful job in commentary this afternoon. Chris Chu in action next in the KF1 GP and GP50 classes. Confirmation here of the finishing positions. Big win for Timothy of Russia. He's going to be hard to beat in the grand final. Stay with us. KF1 and GP, GP50 up next.